Every year, the AGS Honors and Awards Committee deliberate to select the finest examples of geographical or geospatial research, scholarship, or service, and recommend they be awarded appropriate medals by the AGS Council. We began a tradition 10 years ago to recognize these examples of excellence at our annual symposium. It is our honor to do so again today. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated, and I ask the President of AGS, Dr. Marie Price, to come to the stage and convene our honors and awards ceremony. Marie?
Thank you, John. This is always a wonderful opportunity to acknowledge greatness. Dr. Agnew, Ms. Flournoy, distinguished participants of the American Geographical Society Fall Symposium, AGS counselors, fellows, faculty members, and the Columbian University community and honored guests. We are pleased that you can join us this afternoon for the presentation of the American Geographical Society medals. The medals include the Charles P. Daly Medal for distinguished work, valuable and distinguished geographical services or labors to Dr. John Agnew, and the Cullum Geographical Medal for rigorous thinking and distinguished work on international issues to the awardee, Ms. Michèle Flournoy. The Society awarded its first medal in 1896. Since then, 10 medals have been created and awarded to nearly 200 people from around the world. And we're also very happy today to have Ms. Elsa Melamed with us. She is a supporter of the Society and created 2 of our newest medals. We're not giving one today, but it's nice to have you here. Harkening back to an era when medals were created to recognize excellence and were awarded to individuals who expanded geographical knowledge through research and exploration, pioneered new geographic technology, and used geographical thinking to influence policy. Through the awarding of medals, AGS has recognized astronauts, explorers, cartographers, inventors, researchers, and world leaders. The first award we'll make this afternoon is the Charles P. Daly Medal for distinguished work in geographical labors and services. And I'm especially honored that the awardee is a former professor of mine, Dr. John Agnew. Deborah Popper, chair of the AGS Honors and Awards Committee, and Dr. John Agnew, I ask you to join us while Deborah reads the citation.
Thank you, Marie. It is an honor for me to read the citations for our medalists. And I have to add, those of you who were here yesterday heard them both speak. As I listened to their wonderful presentations and the wonderful speakers that followed throughout the symposium, I thought about our medalists, and I was struck by how much the work they have done underlies much of what we have been talking about and addressing all these difficult issues, thinking about how they've influenced our own work and the ongoing work. So let me start with the citation for Dr. Agnew. The Charles P. Daly Medal honors one of AGS's most notable and active 19th century members. A New Yorker, Daly, who lived from 1816 to 1899, had a long and influential career. A lawyer, he served for 42 years as a judge on the New York Court of Common Pleas, and for much of that time, he was its Chief Justice. He served almost as long, 36 years, as president of the American Geographical Society. He was widely respected, and Abraham Lincoln consulted him often during the Civil War. His interests were wide and varied. His writings range across law, geography, literature, demographics, you name it. As AGS's president, he was intent on making the organization relevant to its world, promoting exploration and research, and using influence where it mattered. Daly medalists are recognized, and I quote, for valuable or distinguished geographical services or labors. And that is what this year's Daly medalist, John Agnew, has done. His work is distinguished for its influence in reframing our understanding of the relationship between politics, power, and lived experience. Born in the iron mining town of Milham, England, he had the benefit of British geography education. He came to the U.S. for graduate study at The Ohio State University and remained to teach, initially at Syracuse University, and then for much of his career at UCLA, where he is Distinguished Professor of Geography, as well as Professor of Italian. He is a prolific writer who came to political geography at a critical time. The field seemed stifled, perhaps, by the intellectual domination or dominance of the nation's states, with assumptions of its rightness, near inevitability, and totalizing frame. His many writings, beginning in the 1970s, have been instrumental in revitalizing that discipline, turning it into a much more critical and nuanced field of study that considers territories, variability, and contingency, with political and governance forms deriving from and affecting history, social relations, and geospatial conditions. His work is wide-ranging in time and place, theoretically sophisticated without sacrificing empiricism specificity. His 2005 Hegemony, The New Shape of Global Power, and 2009 Globalization and Sovereignty were both named outstanding academic titles by choice. Agnew has had leadership roles within geography. He was president of the Association of American Geographers, associate editor of its journal, Annals of the Association of American Geographers, co-editor of Geopolitics. As founding editor-in-chief of the journal Territory, Politics, and Governance, he created a journal to ensure lively, informed discussion, redefining understanding of governance and authority as much more than formal government activity, but rather the province of all sorts of actors working at different scales. Especially striking, and a bit like Daly, to anyone encountering Dr. Agnew, you will notice a remarkable, wide-ranging curiosity. He has traveled the world for his own research, but also been invited to be visiting professor at numbers and numbers of different institutions in the US, Canada, and throughout Europe. His writings are marked by a willingness to take on current, controversial issues, pick a year, see what was happening, and then look to see what Dr. Agnew had to say about it. His writing is engaging and provocative. He never stops. The students he has trained and inspired have gone on to dominate the field of geography. Therefore, for these reasons and more, on behalf of its grateful members, worldwide scholars, and all who recognize the importance of excellence in geographical research and exploration, the American Geographical Society honors Professor John Agnew by presenting him with the Charles P. Daly Medal on the 22nd day of November in the year 2024 in New York City. And now let me turn the podium over to John and for him to say words.
Well, thank you, Deborah, very much for that. That was quite marvelous. I'd like to thank Marie and Chris and the American Geographical Society for the recognition. I must admit that I didn't know much about the AGS medals. I have published quite a bit in the main journal of the AGS, the Geographical Review, three times, I think, over the last 15 years. So that's been my main connection, I think, with the American Geographical Society. But this medal pleases me in particular because of its associations. I didn't know much about Daly, but some of I've more recently discovered things about the American Geographical Society and about previous holders of this medal. Certainly the first thing is the American Geographical Society, I think, is marked by, and from its origins, what I would call a planetary consciousness of geography, rather than a narrow kind of focus on particular scales, particularly, in my view, the kind of obsession that the social sciences in particular tend to have with nation states. And certainly as a child, that was what attracted me to geography. And then more recently, many of the colleagues I've had at Syracuse, UCLA, and elsewhere, mention maybe just two, Dennis Cosgrove at UCLA and David Livingston, close friend of mine at Queen's University in Belfast, who also have been very important in this whole idea that geography as a field should be thinking in planetary terms. Previous holders, two of them are people who had a lot of influence on me. One was Jean Gottman, famous geographer from Eastern Europe originally, but then living in France, and then a refugee from France to the United States in 1940. And then from many years later, the professor of geography at Oxford. And Gottman, in particular, has influenced my views about thinking about territory. And then the second one was a colleague of mine at Syracuse for many years, Don Meinig. He's another previous holder of this medal. And both of them, I think, were important because they questioned the typical assumptions that lay at the heart of a lot of thinking in both political and cultural historical geography. And in particular, I think both of them tended to try and think about the world in more holistic terms. And my work on place and politics and geopolitics, I think, has shared this emphasis. So just to close, I'm honored to receive the medal and the recognition it brings, not just to me, but to the sort of research and teaching that I have done. I'd like to call out Dave Kaplan, Wes Reiser, Alec Murphy, John O'Loughlin, who are all, I think, here, who over the years have been important in giving advice and support to me. I'd also like to thank my family and friends. My partner, Felicity Nussbaum, couldn't be here, but I think perhaps Gene Howard and Jim Baker, two friends of mine who live in New York, may be here today, and I'd like to thank all of them for the sort of support I've received from them over the years. Thank you.
Let me ask Michèle Flournoy to join us on the stage. So the Cullum Geographical Medal is AGS's oldest. Established in 1896, the explorer Robert Peary was its first awardee. It stands for reaching across the globe and pushing into new territory. This year's winner, Michèle Flournoy, does this in her own way. Her expertise is impressively global. You can be sure that any major geopolitical issue that has arisen since the 1980s has gotten her attention. She exemplifies the best of what it means to be a civilian voice in the national security and defense world. She has held leadership positions never before held by women, most notably as Undersecretary of Defense for Policy under President Obama. She became the highest-ranking woman the department ever had. Her global interests grew from her experience as a foreign exchange student and then later a Newton Tatum Scholar at Oxford, Balliol College, followed by travel to visit friends she'd made around the world, giving her a strong base and a broad perspective on places she hadn't grown up. Her first professional area of interest was nuclear arms control, an issue of vital importance as Cold War America maneuvered toward the era's end. She approached the topic by asking tough questions and devising useful strategies. That got her noticed and led to her first position at the Defense Department. From there, she expanded her range of concerns. Over the next decades, she moved in and out of the DoD, founding organizations like the Center for a New American Security, devoted to national security. Appointed as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Strategy by President Clinton, she was and has remained a thoughtful voice on the approach to some of the most challenging and intractable problems the nation has faced, from Iraq, Somalia, Libya, Afghanistan, and China. She initiated the Quadrennial Defense Review, and in its first year developed the argument that the U.S. must be prepared for war in two theaters. Her influence on a subsequent GDR raised questions still needing answers of how best to address war's evolving shape, given the new complications of hackers, drones, non-state actors, and AI. She's managing partner of WestExec, a company she co-founded with now Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, and inspired by her perception that the country's security needs require different forms, including private sector ones, to be more agile in addressing the rapidly complexifying global threats. She's written thoughtfully on the necessity and difficulty of managing artificial intelligence in defense. Flournoy's distinguished career has made her a widely valued board member at organizations like Booz Allen, Ameda Technology Solutions, U.S. Naval Academy Foundation, and CARE. She's a former member of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, the CIA Director's External Advisory Board, the Defense Policy Board. Ours is not her first medal. She has one from Secretary of Defense for Outstanding Public Service and another for Distinguished Public Service. Her clear mind, ability to listen and learn and then strategize, and her generous spirit are part of what makes her special. She doesn't just push doors open for herself. Flournoy sees mentorship as one of her most important roles. She no longer stands as the only or youngest woman to take on significant roles at the Defense Department. She's worked with and supported new leaders whom she is happy to say have taken her title. Therefore, for these reasons and more, on behalf of its grateful members, worldwide scholars, and all who recognize the importance of excellence in geographical research and exploration, the American Geographical Society honors Michèle Flournoy by presenting her with the Cullum Geographical Medal on this, the 22nd day of November in the year 2024 in New York City. So thank you, Michèle. And now, please come to the podium and speak to us again.
Well, thank you for that very wonderful introduction and citation, and thank you to all of you and to AGS for honoring me in this way. I must say this was unexpected, but the more I learned about the organization and the award, the more humbled and honored I was to receive it. I mean, sitting in this symposium the last 2 days, it's so clear to me that the study of geography in all of its various forms really is a critical sort of fact-based analytic way to inform so many different aspects of U.S. policy, of other countries' policy, of the policies of states around the world and international organizations. The work you do is absolutely critical to ensure that we are making the best possible choices in dealing with the challenges that we've been talking, ranging from migration to humanitarian crises to climate and so many others. So I just want to applaud you all for the incredible work that you do and for convening people from academia and government, private sector, nonprofits together to have these very important conversations. And I also want to just say a word of encouragement to the young people here. I just am so inspired to see you here, and I really hope that you all will consider making your way in this field. It is such a way to have a positive and powerful impact in the world, and we need more people devoting themselves to this important work. So again, I am truly honored and humbled to be accepting this award, and I just thank you all for everything that you are doing to help make the world a better place.
And with that, it concludes our honors and awards ceremony.